Mushroom cultivation is being taken up as an important agribusiness activity in the recent times for a reliable source of farm income. Since it does not require access to land, mushroom cultivation is a viable and attractive activity for both farmers in rural areas and entrepreneurs of urban and peri-urban areas. Different varieties of mushrooms are cultivated across the globe depending on the climate and consumer demand. Few of the important cultivated edible mushrooms are button mushroom, shiitake mushroom, milky mushroom, oyster mushroom, and many others. Pleurotus species, popularly known as oyster mushroom or dingri mushroom, is emerging as an important mushroom variety because of its wider adaptability to different climate and substrates, easy cultivation technique, and high productivity. The fruit bodies of this mushroom are distinctly shell or spatula shaped with different shades of white, grey, pink depending upon the species. Oyster mushroom is one of the popular edible mushroom producing protein-rich food from various agro-wastes or forest wastes without using the composting process of the substrate. The economic importance of oyster mushroom lies primarily in its use as food for human consumption. It is rich in vitamin C and B complex, and the protein content in oyster mushroom species varies between 1.6 to 2.5%. The niacin content is about 10 times higher than any other vegetables. Oyster mushroom contains many mineral salts required by the human body. Oyster mushroom is a boon for people with hypertension, obesity, and diabetes as it has less amount of starch, fat, and low sodium-potassium ratio. Because of these properties, oyster mushroom is becoming more popular among the consumers. Due to increasing demand for oyster mushrooms and better price in the market, many farmers are showing interest in the commercial cultivation of oyster mushrooms. Oyster mushrooms are a good choice for inexperienced and startup cultivators because they are easier to grow than many other species requiring moderate initial investment. Low specificity towards the substrate and different varieties growing at wide range of temperature and simple cultivation techniques are key driving factors for the large-scale adaptability of this mushroom. In this video documentary, the steps involved in oyster mushroom cultivation on a commercial scale will be explained. The procedure for oyster mushroom cultivation is usually discussed and completed in 4 steps. They are preparation or procurement of spawn, substrate preparation or substrate pasteurization, spawning, and crop management. The mushroom cultivation is analogous to farming activity in the sense that spawn acts as a seed material and the substrate acts as a soil base. Spawn is a mass of fungal mycelium grown on an artificial medium, mostly on cereal grains such as wheat, jowar, bajra, etc. The spawn can also be purchased from various spawn producing laboratories situated nearest to your mushroom unit. Oyster mushroom can be cultivated on a large number of agro-wastes such as cereal straw, sugarcane bagasse, sawdust, jute and cotton waste, peanut shells, dried grasses, discarded waste paper, etc. Many spawn producing firms are selling ready-to-fruit bags by mixing the spawn with the substrate. This is an easiest way to gain the confidence in mushroom cultivation. In order to prepare the substrate to grow oyster mushroom by yourself, you need the dry suitable agricultural waste that can support the cultivation of oyster mushroom. In the present video documentary, mostly wheat straw or paddy straw or combination of the two are used as a substrate for demonstrating the cultivation technology of oyster mushroom. When growing mushrooms, primary goal is to facilitate quick colonization of mushroom mycelium. Pasteurization of agricultural residue helps in achieving this objective by killing harmful competitor molds and fungi. Pasteurization is the process of killing the microorganisms primarily through the exposure to heat. This pasteurization process of the growing medium gives the mushroom mycelium an advantage over other harmful fungi or competitor molds as the mushroom mycelium gets established in the pasteurized substrate while other fungi gets eliminated. Pasteurization occurs between 58 to 62 degrees Celsius temperature. Any higher temperature than this may kill several beneficial microorganisms, thus adversely affecting the productivity of mushrooms. The pasteurization of the substrate can be achieved by several means like steam pasteurization, hot water treatment, or bulk pasteurization. Now let us look at some of these ways to pasteurize the straw in order to grow mushrooms. In the steam pasteurization, the straw wetted to hold about 50 to 60% moisture and then is packed in wooden trays or boxes. These trays or boxes are then kept in a pasteurization room where temperature is maintained between 58 to 62 degrees Celsius for 4 hours. Temperature of the pasteurization room is manipulated with the help of steam provided through a boiler. After the pasteurization is complete, allow the substrate to cool at room temperature. In the hot water treatment pasteurization method, the substrate is soaked in hot water at a temperature of 65 to 70 degrees Celsius for 60 to 120 minutes. This process makes the substrate soft to promote the quick growth of mycelia. The substrate is then allowed to drain excess water and cool at room temperature. When bulk facilities for heat treatment are not feasible, chemical sterilization is practiced by farmers. However, since mushroom is promoted as a health food, growing it through chemical pasteurization is not recommended. When organic sources such as cereal straw is used as a substrate for growing oyster mushrooms at larger scale, the deficiency of nitrogen is often limiting the yield potentiality. Supplementation with nitrogen-rich organic compounds such as wheat bran, rice bran, soya cake, cottonseed meal will help in increasing the biological efficiency. Depending on the nitrogen content, 3 to 6% of the suitable supplementation material can be mixed with the substrate on dry weight basis. The supplements should be pre-treated with 2% formalin before mixing with the substrate. Freshly prepared, matured but with no contaminants, the grain spawn is mixed at the rate of 2 to 3% of the substrate on wet weight basis. The spawning should be done under clean and hygienic conditions, preferably in rooms pre-fumigated with formaldehyde to prevent the entry of competitor molds. Spawning can be done either by thoroughly mixing the grain spawn with the substrate or by spreading in layers of pasteurized substrate and the spawn alternatively. After the spawning process, the spawned substrate will be filled in the polythene bags and tightly pressed and tied with a nylon rope. One can use empty fruit packing cartons or boxes for filling the substrate. Polythene sheets are spread in rectangular wooden or metal box. Spawned substrate is filled and the polythene sheet is folded from all the 4 sides to make a compact rectangular box. The block is incubated as such, and after mycelium growth, the polythene sheet is removed. Once spawning is over, the bags are kept in the incubation room on a raised platform or shelves that can be hanged for mycelial colonization of the substrate. Although mycelium can grow between 10 to 30 degrees Celsius, the optimum temperature ranges between 22 to 26 degrees Celsius. Higher temperatures such as more than 30 degrees Celsius in the cropping room will inhibit the growth and might kill the mycelium. During mycelial growth, the bags are not to be opened and do not require much ventilation. There is also no need for excess relative humidity, not requiring any water spray. Once the mycelium has fully colonized the substrate, It forms a thick mycelial mat and is ready for fruiting. Any contaminated bags with mold infestation should be discarded, while bags with patchy mycelial growth may be left for a few more days to complete the spawn run. The bags can be opened after 15 to 20 days depending on the spawn run. All the bags are arranged on iron or wooden platforms or shelves with a minimum distance of 15 to 20 cm between each bag in the same tier. Mycelial growth of majority of the Pleurotus species can take place between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. However, for initiation of fruiting, different species have different temperature requirement. The yield of the low temperature requiring strains is best at 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, and 16 to 30 degrees Celsius is considered most favorable for moderate and high temperature requiring species. During the fruiting period, a relative humidity of 80 to 85% should be maintained by spraying the water 2 to 3 times in the hot and dry weathers and one light spray during the humid weather conditions. Sufficient ventilation should be provided for air circulation. The color of the oyster is also influenced by the light intensity and its duration. Fruit bodies raised in bright light are dark brown, grey or blackish colored. If the light intensity is less, the mushrooms will be pale yellowish. The pH of the water for spraying should be neither too acidic nor alkaline, and it should not contain harmful salts. The neutral pH is preferable. With suitable crop management practices, mushroom fruit bodies are ready for harvesting in 6 to 8 days after pinheads formation. The right stage for picking can be judged by the shape and size of fruit body. Pick the mushrooms while the edges of the caps are still curled down. If you leave the mushrooms to grow bigger, you will end up with poor quality mushrooms. It is advisable to harvest all the mushrooms at one time from a bag so that the next crop of mushrooms starts early. The best quality of mushrooms can be harvested from the first and second flushes due to the availability of sufficient nutrients. Under normal room temperature conditions, fresh mushrooms can be stored for 2 to 3 days without any deterioration. The fruit bodies can be dried under sunlight to the moisture level of 8 to 10%. The dried oyster mushroom can be conveniently stored for 4 to 6 months without losing its original properties. The cultivation technology of oyster mushroom is very simple, which does not require costly infrastructure facilities. For the production of 40 to 50 kg fresh mushroom per day, minimum 4 to 5 low-cost growing rooms of 20 feet length and 15 feet breadth are required. Depending on the type of material used for construction, the investment may range between 4 to 5 lakh rupees to establish an oyster mushroom unit.